Welcome to Aging in Style with me, Lori Williams. I'm an optimist by nature, and I believe you can follow your dreams at any age. My grandmother's journey with dementia ignited a passion in me to work with seniors. I've spent the past 13 years learning about seniors and aging. In my mid-50s, I followed my own dream and founded my company, where I use my expertise to help seniors locate housing and resources. On this podcast, we cover all aspects of aging. Join us each week to meet senior living experts and inspirational seniors who are following their dreams. The fact is, we're all aging, so why not do it in style? Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode of Aging in Style with Lori Williams. Today, my guest is Jimmy Zollo, and he's the co-founder of the company Joe and Bella. And this is like a really unique idea. I think it's brilliant what they came up with. They're meeting a need for seniors that really, I don't know of anyone who has reached out and, created something to help our seniors with this solution. And he's going to tell us all about it. So I think you're really going to be amazed and really like it. So let me tell you a little bit about Jimmy. He, like I said, he's the co-founder and CEO of Joe and Bella. He also co-founded Collaborata, and that's a market research organization that launches innovative, large-scale projects. They bring brands together to share insights and the cost. And he also developed his passion and enthusiasm for innovation while driving initial growth at Grubhub, one of Chicago's most successful tech startups. I know I've ordered from Grubhub myself. He helped develop Grubhub's industry-leading restaurant network by launching new markets and growing existing ones. So welcome, Jimmy.
Hey, Lori. Thanks for having me. I'm so excited to talk to you.
I'm so glad that you agreed to talk to me. So this is going to be fun. So why don't we just kind of jump in, and your grandparents are who inspired you. So tell us about your grandparents and what was going on and how this all came about.
Yeah, absolutely. So I always had a really close relationship with my grandparents. We were really fortunate that we lived just a neighborhood away. But back in 2012, they were both struggling physically. So my grandfather was suffering from Parkinson's and dementia. And my grandmother had her second hip surgery. And at that point in her life, just didn't really take to physical therapy. She kind of, as much as we tried, she just didn't want to do physical therapy anymore, and lost most of her mobility. She was in a wheelchair. So they had an in-home caregiver. But even with that, my grandmother was still falling. And we were upping hours. We were coming up with tech solutions to try and prevent it. But it got to the point where it just wasn't safe anymore for her to be living at home. So we had to make the last minute decision. And I say last minute, it was a decision we had been mulling over for a year, but finally there was one fall that, not to do a pun, but was really the tipping point that made us say, all right, we have to go, and we have to go now. At that point, though, we were fortunate that we had already gone to all the assisted care communities in the neighborhood. We had picked one out. We had reserved a bed already, and it was Christmas Eve of 2012. So that shows you how last minute it was that we decided to move first her in, and then my grandfather followed about 2 weeks later. So that was my first sort of time getting to know and work with care communities and understanding what that experience is like. And I'm forever grateful, and our family's forever grateful and indebted to those care communities. They were in 3 over the next 8 years. And so we are really indebted to the caregivers there and the just amazing work and care that they provided to our grandparents.
Yeah, and it's wonderful that you had done the research ahead of time, because a lot of times people will reach out to me and they need assisted living, like I have one right now that needs it by Friday, which is tomorrow. So then you're kind of like put yourself in a crisis mode when you wait till the last minute. But that's great that y'all had researched and kind of had a game plan in place.
Right. And as you know, each community is not created equal. They all have their advantages and disadvantages. And some can be the most beautiful looking place in the world, but that doesn't mean that they have the right type of care and the right level of care for what you're looking for. And because my grandmother and grandfather had really different needs, it was challenging to find the right place. So we must have gone to at least, 10 or 12 places around Chicago before we found the right one to go to. And we feel really fortunate that they had a bed open when we needed it most.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that definitely worked out. So once they moved in and got settled in, and when you move into assisted living, they do take care, meals are taken care of and housekeeping and all of that stuff, but you still need personal things. So that's when you discovered that there was a need. So tell us about that.
Right. And, we discovered that need the first night there, where we're probably like 10 o'clock Christmas Eve. We're unpacking my grandmother, setting up her room, putting up her picture frames, laying down her rug, making her bed, all of that sort of stuff to make it feel like her place. But even despite that, it was clear that we didn't have everything we needed. And despite being at a phenomenal community, there were still other things that she was going to need. So we were making runs back and forth to Target to get everything that night. I remember we needed a universal remote and we needed AAA batteries. And then there were some new toiletries that weren't just quite right that we needed. And then the temperature was a big thing, where we knew right away that they kept it colder there than what she was used to. And my grandmother gets notoriously cold. And even with a blanket on, she was still freezing. So we had to order her some new clothes. And so despite having this great place and despite having Target right there, we just didn't have everything that we needed. And even as we went forward the next 8 years with her living in various communities, her needs would adapt, her needs would change, and also the great sort of products that would come out that would make her life a little bit easier changed too. And so we needed a place to sort of tell us where to look and what to find and what to use to make her life easier, to make the caregivers' lives a little bit easier.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And, adult children, we, find a great place and, she's getting the care like your grandmother is. But, the adult children are busy, or adult grandchildren are, they're busy living their lives, but there's still going to be needs. Like there's going to be maybe Depends or clothes, or you run out of shampoo or whatever it may be. And you don't always have time to run out and buy those things. And then, of course, to complicate it, you have COVID. So I think what you've done has filled that niche that was really desperately needed, I think.
Yeah, I appreciate that. That was the goal. So what we knew back then was that, hey, there just has to be an easier way. I remember two things specifically that happened. The first was we went into her room, and typically when we'd go there, we'd go there almost every day, but maybe once a week we would do a run through to make sure, hey, are her clothes stained? Does she have enough toothpaste? And we went in there and we saw that she was out of mouthwash. And we asked a caregiver, hey, how long has she been out of mouthwash for? And they had no idea. And that's not the caregiver's fault, by the way, because they had 60 plus residents and are working double shifts and have just an incredibly hard job. So of course something like that's going to fall through the cracks from time to time. It's inevitable despite where you were. So that was sort of our first light bulb that, hey, wouldn't it be great if there was a service that for anything that is consumable, whether that be toiletries or incontinence, that there is just an easy way to automatically have those items reordered. So you never have to worry about your loved one running out of what they need, because you just don't ever want to be in that position, particularly now during COVID.
Absolutely.
The second big light bulb was bras. My dad went on in there and into the community one day, and the caregiver said, hey, your mom needs new pairs of bras. And he said, okay, great, I'm going to go run to Target. He went to Target. He immediately got flustered and immediately realized he was well in over his head. And I think he said, you know what, I'm just going to get a bunch of things, and one of these is going to be correct. So I think he bought 5 or 6 options. He came back and the caregivers were laughing at him, and they said, none of these are correct. None of these work for someone in a wheelchair. This is not remotely accurate. And I think it was that moment where he was kind of pushed over the ledge, where of course he's not going to know what to get. Of course he's not. And of course, even if he's going to guess every option, the one option he doesn't guess is going to be the one that would have been most helpful. So
that's
part
so
of
funny.
What we also offer on Joe and Bella. Yeah. Mm-hmm. So part of what we also offer on Joe and Bella are undergarments to really just great adaptive clothing. So whether or not you're in a wheelchair, and it makes the life of the caregiver easier, so you don't have to be fully lifted up for shoes and pants and other types of items. So we're working with some really great adaptive clothing partners like CareZips and Smart Adaptive Clothing, who are just phenomenal.
Yeah, that's amazing. And I'm sure a lot of people don't even know that adaptive clothing is a thing. So I think it's a great way through your website, they can find these things that they had no idea even existed.
There are just some really smart designs out there. And of course, for my grandfather, all he ever wanted was a hoodie. That's all that mattered. He wouldn't wear anything else, so adaptive clothes wouldn't work for him. But for my grandmother, on the other hand, it was a really great alternative option.
That's great. So, okay, tell us about the name Joe and Bella and how that came about. Because at first I thought maybe it was the names of your grandparents, but that's not the case.
Yeah, so we met Joe and Bella Christmas Eve 2012, the night we moved in my grandmother. And they were two residents of the care community we had moved on in. They were both in their late 80s at the time, and they were Holocaust survivors who found each other later in life. So they were both widowed at the time and sort of became attached at the community. And the first night we met them, we were walking around kind of getting a tour of the place, and we noticed they were kind of lagging behind us, and then kind of took over the tour. And Bella in particular has about the biggest personality I've ever met. And we like to say it's always Bella's show. And Bella put on a show that night. But then at the end, they actually invited us over to do a prayer with them because it was the first night of Hanukkah. It was just really meaningful. And then from that day on, every single meal my grandparents had in the community, they sat and ate with Joe and Bella. And for us, because Joe and Bella's families didn't live very close, they really became adopted grandparents to us. They came over for Mother's Day and Father's Day and every other holiday and Thanksgiving. And they just became a really, really big part of our lives. And to us, being able to honor them with this name is really meaningful. Joe probably would like it. Bella gets to be a superstar, so she gets to show off a little bit about having her name for a company, which we love, and we're just really happy to honor them.
That's wonderful, and it's such a cute name too. Okay,
yeah, thank you.
You're welcome. So tell us about some of the products. And I know you do a lot of things, like you say, the adaptive clothing, you have toiletries, and then you also have gift boxes. So maybe tell us about some, and then we'll talk about some of the most popular items.
Yeah, absolutely. So it's a range from comfy clothes to tech to toiletry to gifts and kind of everything in between. A few of the things that we do also to make life easier, because right now, the biggest challenge for caring for a loved one is that obviously you can't go and see them in a lot of cases. A lot of these communities, particularly I know where we're at in Chicago, where it's snowing outside right now, or anywhere else that's completely cold, these communities are on full lockdown. So I know people that haven't been able to see their loved one in a care community for a year. And it's just really sad and really horrible. And from a caregiving perspective, that also means that you don't get to be able to go in their closet. You don't get to go into the bathroom, and you don't have your eyes on what they need. And if you're caring for a loved one with memory issues, that makes that challenge even more difficult. And you're kind of fully reliant on the care community themselves to guide you. So one of our solutions for that is by bundling things together, that we have packages if you want a box of clothing instead of just socks and sweatpants and sweatshirts. You can get a bundle to sort of refresh the closet because you haven't been in there a year. Things might be stained, they might be torn, they might just need a little bit refreshing. Getting a box is a nice way to save a little bit of money, but also make sure that everything is checked off all at once. So we do that for clothing, but we also do that for toiletries. So you can get a box that includes toothpaste and toothbrush and mouthwash and everything else you need to stay clean and stay fresh. And you can customize it for whatever your favorite brands are.
That's great. And I think it's so sweet also that you do the gift boxes. And I mean, who doesn't love getting something in the mail? It could be someone's thinking of you, or, something for their birthday or for Easter or whatever, anything for the holidays. And I know you recently had one sent to me so I could do an unboxing on air, and I did a video, and it's just so cool. It was all kinds of things that would be appropriate for a lady. And I mean, it was, a coloring book, it was nail polish and socks. It was all those things that any grandma would love to receive. And I think what a special way, especially with COVID, or if you live out of state and you haven't been able to see your grandparents or your parents, what a wonderful, special way to let them know that you're thinking of them.
Absolutely. So if you all haven't seen Lori's video on her Facebook or Instagram, she does a really phenomenal unboxing of one of our gift box, which is really, really fun to see. But yeah, I know personally, my weakness is getting gifts. I just can't do it. And for my grandmother, I was able to at least default to crossword puzzles, because even as she aged and as she had dementia later on, she still could do a crossword puzzle in a pen and get it totally right. So getting some crossword puzzle books for her was always easy, but it would have been nice to have an option where there was a gift box that included that, among other things, and it was sort of professionally done. And we, early on, that was one of the things that we wanted to find first. So we found three individuals in particular, these three super talented women from who were on Etsy and were selling custom gift boxes on Etsy, and they made some custom gift boxes for Joe and Bella. And the fun thing that we're going to be doing when it comes to holidays or the change of the seasons, we're going to have new ones. So come Mother's Day and Father's Day, we're going to have custom gift boxes that are going to be available that are just going to look great and make you look like a superstar and make your loved one really, really happy.
That's great. Because I know a lot of times we don't know what to send our grandparents, or, we're thinking, I don't know what they're going to like. And I think they just nailed it with the gift box you sent me. Everything in there, down to just like the little package of Kleenex, was exactly what my grandmother would have loved. And chocolates too. Great. Yeah, it was wonderful.
Right. Who's not going to like the chocolate?
Exactly. Unless you're just crazy, right?
Yeah.
And I know you do some of the tech items too. Tell us about some of those items.
Yeah, it's been really interesting, and I'm sure I think you've had some other tech founders on before, and I'm sure you're going to have more to come. I think the focus from the venture community and the investment community in tech for this demographic is finally being focused. I think there's a lot of really great new products out there, a lot of things that are built to make the lives of individuals who are aging, who are maybe in assisted care or memory care that just didn't exist a couple of years ago, and I'm excited about where that's all going to go. So for a few of the things that we have, my personal favorite is a company called Joy for All. I'm not sure if you're familiar, but they were actually spun out of Hasbro. So a few Hasbro executives made essentially smart stuffed animals. So they look like little dogs and little cats. They started with a golden retriever and like a yellow cat, and now they've got a bunch of different options. But for someone who has Alzheimer's or who has dementia, it gets the same emotional response that an actual dog or cat would get. And so it's this phenomenal sort of therapy stuffed animal, and it's electric, so it makes the sounds, it makes the breathing motion. It's a pretty
They're really
remarkable.
Cool. They're kind of freaky. I've seen them.
Yeah.
They look so real.
They look so real, and no, I just love them. We have a few videos on the site of people getting to see them for the first time, and people just start crying. It's like someone getting a puppy for the first time. It's really emotional to see.
Yeah, and it's so wonderful, because a lot of times when they go into dementia, memory care, you can't have your pet. You can have your pet if you're in independent living or assisted living, but if you can't take your pet and you're just so attached, what a wonderful way that they feel like they have this animal that they love, and it's breathing, because it makes the motion like it's right. Breathing, or if it's a cat purring, it is very amazing.
It really is. I know the community that my grandparents were at for a little bit actually had a bunch of animals. So they had 2 dogs. They had several other animals where they had sort of a policy that based upon the number of residents they had, they wanted 1 pet. I think it was 1 pet per 5 residents adolescence, which was pretty cool. But the dogs ended up getting really, really overweight because they were eating so much of the scraps, and everyone wanted to spoil them. But they were happy dogs at least.
Yeah, they were happy, chubby dogs, so that's okay.
Right. One of the other tech products that I love, it's a tool called Grand Care. So it is a smart tablet that allows you to do a few things. So for my grandmother specifically, once COVID hit, and we couldn't see her face to face, we weren't allowed to go into the community. We wanted the ability to FaceTime with her, but she just couldn't do it. And in order for us to actually FaceTime with her, it would have to be scheduled ahead of time with the community, and it just wasn't sort of a perfect situation. The nice thing about Grand Care is that you can pop into the tablet as long as it's charged and on, and talk right then and there. So she would have it set up sort of on her table next to where she would normally sit. We could call on into it and talk. She wouldn't have to worry about standing up to answer or even clicking on anything, and you're there. But it also has some really great tools around tracking medication and having your calendar up there, and also games to music. It's a really fun, phenomenal tool that we love.
Yeah. Very good. Okay, so you also have products, I noticed, like walkers and things like that, so like mobility type products.
Yeah, so we do have all of the basic health and medical device equipment that your loved one would need. So anything that you would get from one of the major health manufacturers, we do have available, which is phenomenal. And our goal is to sort of round that out and also make sure that we're not just showing 30 or 40 different walker options, because it can be sort of overwhelming. Rather, we have a team of caregivers who they're really like an advisory board to us, Lori, and they approve or disapprove of each product. And so if we say we want 3 walkers on here, they'll go through the list and help us narrow that down. Because I know for us, figuring out things like that, whether it be the medical devices, was always a really big challenge, because there are so many different options and there are so many different brands, and you can see, hey, this one's $30 more. Is it worth getting something that's $30 more? And not necessarily knowing that. So for all of these different medical devices that we've included, on top of having them approved by our advisory board of caregivers, we also have caregiver tips to go along with it. So they'll say, hey, this is why we specifically recommend this type of walker or this type of cane or this type of wheelchair, and give all of that detail.
That's great. And yeah, I didn't mention that earlier, that every product is the caregivers help you pick those out.
Absolutely. So one of the things that we did at the beginning of this, because look, we've been caring for our grandparents and for years, but we aren't professionals. But we've put together a really great team who includes executive directors at care communities, to independent caregivers, to gerontologists, to kind of everything in between. And it's just a phenomenal board. And we've got them all listed out on our site if anyone wants to take a look.
That's great. So what have been so far like the most popular items?
Yeah, so one of the most popular items so far is the women's clothing box has been by far the most popular item so far. So we listed it on our homepage, and it comes most importantly with really sort of fluffy, comfy socks. Particularly right now for those in cold, climates, it's especially helpful. But it also has basics, so it's got really great sweatpants and sort of like tracksuit pants that are great, and a really nice, comfy top that is warm and also a little bit fashionable. And then then most boxes right now are also going to come with, I think, a 3-pack of masks, which is great. On the men's side, what's been really interesting is a cool shoe company called Friendly Shoes. And these shoes look like something an NBA player would wear. So they're super fashionable, really cool looking, but the heel zips out. And so if you have swollen feet, or if you're arthritic and it's tough to bend on over, it's easier to put those on yourself than normal shoes. Or if you're getting dressed by the help of a caregiver, it makes the caregiver's life way easier too, because if they don't have to sort of push and force your foot into the shoe, which is sort of easy slip on, zip up, and you're good to go.
That's pretty cool. I don't think I've seen zip-up shoes, but I like it.
Yeah, they're really cool. And they're coming out with a bunch of new styles, I think, next month, which we're really excited about. They're supposed to have some cheetah print shoes for women and some really cool other designs for men. So we're excited. They got some funky designs.
That's pretty cool. I like it. And you can ship to anywhere in the U.S.?
Anywhere in the U.S. for now. Depending on the specific item, we're either shipping out of Illinois or Texas.
Okay, very good. Good to know. So I like to ask everyone who comes on the podcast this question: who is an inspirational senior in your life? Is there, I know there's probably several, but is there one that just really stands out?
Yeah, I love that question, Lori. So there are a few. Obviously, Joe and Bella have been tremendously inspirational to us. They're so much about why we're doing this and who we're doing this for. But for me, it's my grandfather. So we were always close, but I didn't really realize until I was a little bit older that he was an entrepreneur too. So I come from a family of entrepreneurs. This is my second company I've started. My dad has started about 4 or 5 different companies, but it all really stemmed from my grandfather, Bert. And so he, after fighting in World War II, and there's a whole long story about how he was in charge of a POW camp. He actually wrote a book about a pretty crazy experience there. But after that, he went to journalism school at Northwestern, and his roommate there was none other than Hugh Hefner.
No way.
So so he and Hugh Hefner became best friends, and together they started a magazine called Chicago. And it was funded, both of their dads funded the first several editions, but it didn't quite make it. For whatever reason, it didn't get the type of traction they wanted. But then I guess one day Hugh came to my grandfather and he goes, "Hey, I've got it. I know what the next big idea is." And it was Playboy. And he walked my grandfather through it all. And at the end of Hugh's pitch, my grandfather couldn't stop laughing, saying, "This is the worst idea anyone has ever come up with. It is absolutely not going to be a success." Hugh tried several times to convince my grandfather, saying, "Please, let's go 50-50 on this." And to which my grandfather said, "Absolutely not. But since I'm your friend, I'll write some articles for you." Mm-hmm. So those first several editions of Playboy, there are articles that my grandfather wrote for free for Hugh as being a friend. However, my grandmother so hated the idea of having our family name at all associated with this magazine that he had to write everything under a pseudonym. Really funny story. And that was the piece of advice from my grandfather was, hey, don't always trust your own business instincts because they might not be right, but also go and take some more risk.
Yeah, that is hilarious. What a great story. And yeah, I could see your grandmother not wanting to be a part of that. So.
Yeah, she had a point.
Yeah, she did. Wow, that's incredible. Well, thanks for sharing that.
Yeah, of course. My grandmother would not be happy, I'm sure, in that story, but my grandfather would get a kick out of it.
Yeah, I'm sure he would. That's great. Well, thank you so much for being on the podcast today and sharing your passion for what you do. And Joe and Bella, like I said, I think it's a brilliant idea, and it's something that I don't know anyone else who's doing this. So I think it's just such a great idea, and it's going to help so many families.
Well, Lori, thank you so much for having me on. We're really excited about what we're doing and how we can help. And look, we're just getting started and we're just figuring this out. And our goal is to simply make the lives of caregivers and their loved ones a little bit easier. So to anyone who's listening, if you see something that you think we need that would help somebody else in any way, definitely don't hesitate to reach on out, because that's what we're here to do.
Yeah, wonderful. Well, thank you so much. And thank you all for listening today. If you would like to order something on Joe and Bella, I just want to share with you that we have a 10% discount for you. When you go in to order, you go to joeandbella.com and type in the promo code STYLE, STYLE, and you'll get 10% off. So definitely check them out, go see the products, and we'll have all the information below on how you can contact them as well. And if you do, like Jimmy said, if you have an idea for a product that you think maybe they should be carrying, shoot us a message. And you can always find information, and we'll also have a link on the website to Joe and Bella. But just go to my website, which is LoriWilliams-seniorservices.com. And as always, thanks for listening, and we'll talk to you next week.